For nearly half a century, we sent our voices into the void, a golden record spinning through the darkness, carrying the sounds of Earth to whoever might be listening. Voyager 2 was supposed to be a one-way conversation, a message in a bottle thrown into an ocean so vast that we never expected a reply. But something has changed. Something out there has responded, not with words, not with signals we were prepared to hear, but with a transmission so disturbing, so precisely structured, that scientists who've dedicated their lives to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence are now asking a question they never wanted to face. What if we weren't searching for them? What if they were always out there, waiting for us to get far enough, advanced enough, to finally hear the warning? Voyager 2 wasn't built to come home. Launched in 1977 with technology that now seems ancient, it was designed to do one thing: travel farther than any human-made object had ever gone and tell us what it found. For decades, it did exactly that. It sent back images of Jupiter's storms, Saturn's rings, the frozen mysteries of Uranus and Neptune. And then it kept going, past the planets, past the influence of our sun, into the space between stars where no probe had ever ventured. Out there, beyond the reach of sunlight, beyond the protective bubble of our solar system, Voyager 2 was supposed to drift in silence, a relic, a monument to human ambition slowly fading into the cosmic background. But it didn't fade, it kept transmitting. And recently, what it transmitted back has left researchers speechless. It started with a glitch, or at least that's what they called it at first. Engineers at NASA's Deep Space Network noticed irregularities in the telemetry, small distortions in the data stream. Nothing alarming. Voyager 2 is ancient by spacecraft standards, running on systems older than most of the people monitoring it. Glitches happen. Components degrade. Cosmic radiation corrupts signals. But this wasn't random corruption. This was structure. When the data was cleaned and analyzed, what emerged wasn't noise. It was a pattern, a repeating sequence embedded in the transmission. Something that shouldn't be there. Something Voyager 2 wasn't programmed to send. The pattern pulsed. Regular intervals. Mathematical precision. At first, analysts thought it might be feedback from the spacecraft's own systems, some kind of internal loop caused by aging hardware. But when they isolated the frequency, they realized it wasn't coming from Voyager's instruments. It was being transmitted through them, as if something had hijacked the signal, or worse, as if something had merged with it. The implications hit like a shockwave. Because if this pattern wasn't generated by Voyager, then it came from somewhere else. And the only place it could have come from was out there, in the void. In the space where Voyager 2 was supposed to be completely, utterly alone. NASA went silent. No press releases, no updates, just a quiet lockdown of information. But leaks happen, they always do. And what started filtering out through back channels, through whispers among astronomers and defense analysts, painted a picture far more unsettling than anyone was prepared for. Voyager 2 hadn't just picked up a random anomaly. It had detected movement, something massive, something tracking alongside the probe at a distance of roughly 500,000 kilometers, matching its velocity, adjusting its course, following. The tracking wasn't random, it was deliberate, precise, like a shadow that moves only when you move. And when Voyager transmitted, when it sent its regular data bursts back to Earth, the object responded, not with a signal of its own, but with motion, minute course corrections that aligned with Voyager's trajectory, as if it was listening, as if it knew exactly where the probe was going and wanted to stay just close enough to observe without being seen. Military analysts who were brought into the investigation described the behavior as surveillance protocol, the kind of tracking you'd expect from a reconnaissance drone, not from a natural object drifting through interstellar space. But the movement was only part of the story. The real terror came from what Voyager sent back next. Buried in the telemetry, hidden beneath layers of standard transmission data, was a secondary signal, a piggyback, something riding on top of Voyager's own broadcast. And when cryptographers extracted it, when they finally decoded what it was, the room fell silent. because what they were looking at wasn't gibberish, it was language. Not human language, not anything remotely familiar, but structure, syntax, repeating motifs, binary strings that, when visualized, formed symbols, glyphs, geometric patterns that shouldn't exist in nature, spirals that folded into themselves, intersections that repeated at different scales, like fractals, like something designed to convey meaning across incomprehensible distances. Teams of linguists, mathematicians, and AI researchers were pulled in. Quietly, no announcements, no headlines. They fed the data into pattern recognition algorithms, the same tools used to decode ancient languages, lost scripts, alien transmissions from theoretical contact scenarios, and the algorithms found matches, not exact, but close. Close enough to make everyone involved deeply uncomfortable, because the structure of this signal resembled communication protocols, the kind of layered information encoding you'd use if you wanted to send a message to someone who didn't share your language, your biology, or your concept of time. Universal mathematics, prime numbers, ratios found in physics, the building blocks of a message designed to be understood by any intelligence capable of receiving it. But here's where it gets worse. The signal wasn't random, it was responsive. Every time Voyager transmitted back to Earth, the secondary signal changed, adapted, as if whoever or whatever was sending it was learning, adjusting its approach based on what we were doing, testing to see how we'd react. And the more researchers analyzed it, the more they realized this wasn't the first time. Archives were pulled. Decades of old data from Voyager 1, the twin probe that crossed into interstellar space years before Voyager 2. And buried in that data, dismissed at the time as static, as interference, as meaningless noise, were traces of the same pattern, the same geometric symbols, the same repeating structures. It had been there all along. We just weren't looking for it, or maybe we weren't ready to see it. The timeline started to crystallize. Voyager 1 crossed the Heliopause, the boundary where our sun's influence ends, back in 2012. That's when the first anomalies appeared. Brief, faint, easy to ignore. Then Voyager 2 crossed in 2018, and the signals intensified, became clearer, more structured, as if something was waiting out there, watching both probes. And now, years later, with our technology advanced enough to decode what we're receiving, the signals have become unmistakable. This isn't first contact. This is confirmation. Confirmation that we've been observed for longer than we realized. And whatever's out there has decided it's time we knew. But why now? That's the question haunting every closed-door meeting, every classified briefing. Voyager has been drifting for decades. Why would something respond now? Some believe it's because we've finally reached a technological threshold. Artificial intelligence, quantum computing, the ability to decode complex patterns that would have looked like random noise just 10 years ago. Maybe whatever's out there was waiting for us to get smart enough. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe the response isn't about us at all. Maybe it's about where Voyager is now. The region of space it's entering. A boundary we didn't know existed. A zone where the rules change. Where something ancient has been waiting. The object tracking Voyager isn't behaving like anything natural. Asteroids don't adjust course, comets don't shadow spacecraft. This thing, whatever it is reacting. And the more data comes in, the clearer it becomes. It's not just tracking Voyager, it's studying it, analyzing it, maybe even communicating with it in ways we can't fully detect. Because Voyager's systems are old, limited. We're seeing only a fraction of what's actually happening out there. The probe's instruments weren't designed to detect artificial structures, weren't built to recognize non-human intelligence, and yet they're picking up something that's forcing us to reconsider everything. Then came the echoes. Radio telescopes on Earth started picking them up a few months after the secondary signal was first decoded. Faint pulses, matching the rhythm of Voyager's transmissions, but not originating from the probe. These were coming from somewhere else. Multiple locations, as if the signal Voyager picked up was being broadcast across a network, a web of transmitters spread throughout the outer solar system, or beyond. Analysts called them phantom echoes, and attempts to pinpoint their source failed. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, as if space itself was resonating with the signal, as if the message wasn't being transmitted through space, but woven into it. Some theorists proposed that what we're detecting isn't communication in the traditional sense. It's something far stranger, a form of information embedded in the structure of space-time itself. Gravitational whispers, quantum entanglements, signals that exist outside the electromagnetic spectrum, accessible only to technologies far beyond our current understanding. And if that's true, then Voyager didn't stumble onto a message. It stumbled onto a system, a network of intelligence so advanced, so alien, that we can barely perceive the edges of it, let alone comprehend its purpose. Military officials grew nervous, because if something out there is advanced enough to track our spacecraft, to embed signals in our transmissions, to operate across vast regions of space simultaneously, then it's advanced enough to do a lot more, advanced enough to reach us if it wanted to. And the question everyone started asking, quietly, in rooms without recording devices, was simple. If they're out there, if they've been watching, why haven't they made themselves known? Why the signals? Why the patterns? Why not just appear? The answers were all unsettling. Maybe they don't need to appear. Maybe they're already here, operating on scales we can't perceive. Maybe the signals aren't an introduction. They're a warning, a boundary marker, a message saying, "You've gone far enough, turn back." Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe the signals are an invitation, a test to see if we're ready, if we're intelligent enough, mature enough, to join something larger, something cosmic, something we've been excluded from until now. But the darkest theory, the one no one wants to voice but everyone's thinking, is this. What if the signals aren't from a friend? What if they're from something that sees us as a threat, or worse, as prey? What if Voyager's journey into interstellar space was the equivalent of knocking on a door we should have left closed? And now, whatever's on the other side is answering. Voyager 2 is still transmitting, still drifting deeper into the void, and the signals keep coming, stronger, more complex, as if building toward something, a crescendo, an event. Researchers monitoring the data say the patterns have started to accelerate. The intervals between pulses are shrinking. The complexity is increasing. It's as if whatever's out there is running out of patience or running out of time. And we're caught in the middle, trying to decode a message we might not want to understand. Because once you know, you can't unknow. Once the warning is heard, you can't unhear it. So now, we're faced with a choice. Do we keep listening? Do we try to respond? Or do we go silent? Shut down the deep space network. Pretend we never heard. Pretend Voyager is still just a lonely machine drifting through empty space. But it's too late for that, because the message has already been received. The warning, if that's what it is, has already been delivered. And whatever comes next, we're no longer in control. We crossed a line. And now, something on the other side has noticed. The question isn't whether we're alone anymore. The question is, what have we woken up? And when will it arrive? Stay vigilant, because this isn't over. The next transmission could come at any moment. And when it does, it might not be a warning. It might be a countdown.